Maybe. Okay, there we go. And howdy, everybody. Welcome to Word Redo number 15. Howdy, James. Howdy, Colby. Howdy, Matt.
Howdy.
Howdy, all you happy people in chat. Hey, I remembered to mute, too. That is even better. All right. Everybody have a good week? Productive week?
Hot week.
Yeah, I was in the mountains. It was very windy. Very windy. You know it's windy when you see... it's windy when you see pine trees bending over. Okay. Anyways, we are continuing on in the book of Genesis today with Genesis chapters 29 and 30. And if you don't have a physical paper Bible in front of you, you can go to kingjamesbibleonline.org or you can go to the blueletterbible.org. There's multiple translations there. eSword.net, there's multiple translations there. And BibleHub.com, there's multiple translations there. Okay, but as usual, let's go ahead and pray in before we start reading, and then we'll get rolling. Father, thank you very much for bringing us together today as your sons and daughters to fellowship with one another in the presence of your Spirit. We're very grateful that you saw fit to take the time to come and get us out of whatever it was we were into. Everybody has a little bit different background, but we were all sins and enemies of you, and you still gave your Son for us to be a offering to bring us back. And for that, we are truly grateful. We thank you for this. Please bless everybody here now and in the future. And thank you. In Jesus Yeshua's name, amen. Okay.
Amen.
James disappeared. Okay. So that means we're back up to 19 and verses. All right. All right. Let's go. Anybody want to start? Nope.
I can start.
He's back. We're back to 15. Okay, we're back to 15. 1 through 15, Matt. Go.
What chapter again?
29 and 30.
Yeah, 1 sec. All right. Okay. 29. Then Jacob went on his journey and came into the land of the people of the east. And he looked and beheld a well in the field, and lo, there were 3 flocks of sheep lying by it. For out of that well they watered the flocks, and a great stone was upon the well's mouth. And thither were all the flocks gathered, and they rolled the stone from the well's mouth and watered the sheep, and put the stone again upon the well's mouth in his place. And Jacob said unto them, My brethren, whence be ye? And they said, Of Haran, and we of Haran are we. And he said unto them, Know ye Laban the son of Nahor? And they said, We know him. And he said unto them, Is he well? And they said, He is well. Behold, Rachel his daughter cometh with the sheep. And he said, Lo, it is yet high day, neither is it time for the cattle, that the cattle should be gathered together. Water ye the sheep, and go and feed them. And they said, We cannot until all the flocks are gathered together, until they roll the stone from the well's mouth, then we water the sheep. And while he yet spake with them, Rachel came with her father's sheep, for she kept them. And it came to pass, when Jacob and Rachel, the daughter of Laban his mother's brother, and the sheep of Laban his mother's brother, that Jacob went near, and rolled the stone from the well's mouth, and watered the flock of Laban his mother's brother. And Jacob kissed Rachel, and lifted up his voice, and wept. And Jacob told Rachel that he was her father's brother, and that he was Rebekah's son. And she ran and told her father. And it came to pass, when Laban heard the tidings of Jacob his sister's son, that he ran to meet him, and embraced him, and kissed him, and brought him to his house. And he told Laban all these things. And Laban said to him, Surely thou art my bone and my flesh. And he abode with him the space of a month. And Laban said unto Jacob, Because thou art my brother, shouldest thou therefore serve me for naught? Tell me, what shall thy wages be?
My apologies, 4 more verses.
Oh, okay. And Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the elder was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. Leah was tender-eyed, and Rachel was beautiful and well-favored. And Jacob loved Rachel, and said, I will serve thee 7 years for Rachel, thy younger daughter. And Laban said, It is better that I give her to thee than that I should give her to another man. Abide with me.
Cool. So, verse 20. And Jacob served 7 years for Rachel, and they seemed unto him but a few days, for the love he had to her. And Jacob said unto Laban, Give me my wife, for my days are fulfilled, and I may go in unto her. And Laban gathered together all the men of the place, and made a feast. And it came to pass in the evening that he took Leah his daughter, and brought her to him. And he went in unto her. And Laban gave unto his daughter Leah Zilpah, his maid, for an handmaid. And it came to pass that in the morning, behold, it was Leah. And he said to Laban, What is it this thou hast done unto me? Did not I serve with thee for Rachel? Wherefore then hast thou beguiled me? And Laban said, scroll too far. Sorry, scrolled really fast.
26.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it. Okay, and Laban said, It must not be so done in our country to give the younger before the firstborn. Fulfill her week, and we will give thee this also for the service which thou hast served with me yet 7 other years. And Jacob did so, and fulfilled her week, and he gave him Rachel, his daughter, to wife also. And Laban gave to Rachel his daughter Bilhah, his handmaid, to her to be her maid. And he went in also unto Rachel, and he loved also Rachel more than Leah, and served him yet 7 other years. And when the Lord saw that Leah was hated, he opened her womb, but Rachel's was barren. And Leah conceived and bare a son, and she called his name Reuben. For she said, Surely the Lord hath looked upon my affliction. Now therefore my husband will love me. And she conceived again and bare a son, and said, Because the Lord hath heard that I was hated, he hath therefore given me this son also. And she called his name Simeon. And she conceived again and bare a son, and said, Now this time with my husband be joined unto me, because I have borne him 3 sons, therefore his name called Levi. And she conceived again and bare a son. And she said, Now will I praise the Lord. Therefore she called his name Judah, and left bearing. How many verses do I go into this one? I was not doing the math.
Verse 3.
Okay. And when Rachel saw that she bare Jacob no children, Rachel envied her sister, and said unto Jacob, Give me children, or else I die. And Jacob's anger was kindled against Rachel, and he said, Am I in God's stead, who hath withheld from thee the fruit of the womb? And she said, Behold, my maid Bilhah, go in unto her, and she shall bear upon my knees, and I may also have children by her.
Verse 4. And she gave him Bilhah her maid to wife, and Jacob went in unto her. And Bilhah conceived, and bare Jacob a son. And Rachel said, God hath judged me, and hath also heard my voice, and hath given me a son. Therefore she called his name Dan. And Bilhah, Rachel's maid, conceived again, and bare Jacob a second son. And Rachel said, With great wrestlings have I wrestled with my sister, and I have prevailed. And she called his name Naphtali. When Leah saw that she had left bearing, she took Zilpah, her maid, and gave her Jacob to wife. And Zilpah, Leah's maid, bare Jacob a son. And Leah said, A troop cometh, and called his name Gad. And Zilpah, Leah's maid, bare Jacob a second son. And Leah said, Happy am I, for the daughters will call me blessed. And she called his name Asher. And Reuben went in the days of wheat harvest, and found mandrakes in the field, and brought them unto his mother Leah. Then Rachel said to Leah, Give me, I pray thee, of thy son's mandrakes. And she said unto her, Is it a small matter that thou hast taken my husband, and wouldst thou also take away my son's mandrakes also? And Rachel said, Therefore he shall lie with thee tonight for thy son's mandrakes. And Jacob came out of the field in the evening, and Leah went out to meet him, and said, Thou must come in unto me, for surely I have hired thee with my son's mandrakes. And he lay with her that night. And God hearkened unto Leah, and she conceived, and bare Jacob the fifth son. And Leah said, God hath given me my hire, because I have given my maiden to my husband. And she called his name Issachar. And Leah conceived again, and bare Jacob the sixth son. And Leah said, God hath endued me with a good dowry. Now will my husband dwell with me, because I have borne him 6 sons. And she called his name Zebulun. And afterwards she bare a daughter, and called her name Dinah. And God remembered Rachel, and God hearkened to her, and opened her womb. And she conceived, and bare a son, and said, God hath taken away my reproach.
And she called his name Joseph. And said,
Can't hear you, James. Can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Pull your mic down. Maybe. Does that work?
Can you hear me now?
Nope.
You're really quiet.
I can barely hear you.
How's that?
Can still barely hear you. I'll go ahead and finish, brother.
Thank you.
We'll get it worked out. And she called his name Joseph, and said, The Lord shall add to me another son. And it came to pass, when Rachel had borne Joseph, that Jacob said unto Laban, Send me away, that I may go unto mine own place, and to my country. Give me my wives and my children, for whom I have served thee, and let me go. For thou knowest my service, which I have done thee. And Laban said unto him, I pray thee, if I have found favor in thine eyes, tarry, for I have learned by experience that the Lord hath blessed me for thy sake. And he said, Appoint me thy wages, and I will give it. And he said unto him, Thou knowest how I have served thee, and how thy cattle was with me. For it was little which thou hadst before I came, and it is now increased into a multitude. And the Lord hath blessed me since my coming. And now when shall I provide for mine own house also? And he said, What shall I give thee? And Jacob said, Thou shalt not give me anything. If thou wilt do this thing for me, I will again feed and keep thy flock. I will pass through all thy flock today, removing from thence all the speckled and spotted cattle, and all the brown cattle among the sheep, and the spotted and speckled among the goats, and of such shall be my hire. So shall my righteousness answer for me in time to come, when it shall come for my hire before thy face, every one that is not speckled and spotted among the goats, and brown among the sheep, that shall be counted stolen with me. And Laban said, Behold, I would it might be according to thy word. And he removed that day the goats that were ring-straked and spotted, and all the she-goats that were speckled and spotted, and every one that had some white in it, and all the brown among the sheep, and gave them into the hand of his sons. And he set 3 days' journey betwixt himself and Jacob, and Jacob fed the rest of Laban's flocks. And Jacob took him rods of green poplar, and of the hazel and chestnut tree, and pilled white strakes in them, and made the white appear which was in the rods. And he set the rods which he had pilled before the flocks in the gutters in the watering troughs when the flocks came to drink. that they should conceive when they came to drink. And the flocks conceived before the rods, and brought forth cattle ring-straked, speckled, and spotted. And Jacob did separate the lambs, and set the faces of the flocks toward the ring-straked, and all the brown in the flock of Laban. And he put his own flocks by themselves, and put them not unto Laban's cattle. And it came to pass, whensoever the stronger cattle did conceive, that Jacob laid the rods before the eyes of the cattle in the gutters, that they might conceive among the rods. But when the cattle were feeble, he put them not in. So the feebler were Laban's, and the stronger Jacob's. And the man increased exceedingly, and had much cattle, and maidservants, and menservants, and camels, and asses. All right.
I want to know how he figured all that out.
Observation. That's my theory. He observed it somehow and said, I wonder if this is the case.
Hmm.
And then experimented a couple of times. And then, because notice, he wasn't demanding gold and silver. I think he had it figured out before he had the conversation with Laban.
Yeah, I do too.
But let's go back to 29. And that, let's see here. So we have Jacob cruising along, and he gets to the land of Haran, right? And he sees Rachel, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Rachel.
Yeah, he sees Rachel. And is smitten with her.
Kisses her.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think that those greetings were more than like Italians. Mwah, mwah.
That's what I was thinking actually when I was reading that.
Yeah.
Because then the father came and kissed him, so I'm like, oh, that's probably just a greeting.
Yeah. Yep. Like the Italians. Like other countries besides the United States. Ew, quit rubbing your whiskers on me, dude. Okay.
No, 6 feet. Can't even shake hands anymore. It's the elbow touch, right?
Yeah. Some people do that. Yep. So that.
So silly.
I disagree with the tradition that's taught in certain sects that wear curly hair right here. That Rachel was a tiny child when Jacob meets her here.
She was taking care of the whole flock of sheep.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't pass that off to someone that's learning the ropes.
Yeah.
So she had to be fairly competent at doing something. All right, let's give this a try. Uh-oh. There he is.
Should be working now.
Hey, welcome back.
There it goes.
I'm not even going to call you Cotter. Okay, so let's see. He gets in here and basically just lays it out. Here, he's like, what do you want for your wages? Right? So then it describes Leah and Rachel. And he said, I will serve you 7 years to marry Rachel.
I think it's cool how, well, it says Leah was tender-eyed, but Rachel was beautiful and well-favored. I find it really cool that, Rachel seems like she was better favored, right? But then Leah gets all the children. Also, find it interesting that the servants, the maidservants' children, are considered their children.
That that's interesting too, because as we learn, well, like we learned from reading about Abraham, the people that were born in his house became Abraham's house. And same, we'll see it later on too, that once we get into the law, the Torah, that we'll see that when someone is born in a man's house, they become a part of that man's house, and not necessarily the people that bore the child or sired the child. And that even, I think you and I were talking, Matt, about even in cases of divorce, the children stayed in the father's house. Yay? Nay? No? Oh, he's frozen.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I froze.
There we go.
Okay.
Okay, what?
Said we were talking about that. Doesn't it say in the case of divorce, the children stay in the father's house
Mm,
and the wife returns back to her father's house?
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Yeah.
man, has that been flipped today?
Yeah. So that. Okay, so he works his 7 years. And
He's tricked. Do
he gets.
should he have known of the culture at the time?
I would think so. I think everybody's sort of conscious about what the culture is around them,
Yeah.
what the customs are and everything. But at the same time, Laban agreed to give Rachel the younger.
Yeah, I'm not saying Laban was in the right. I was just
Yeah.
thinking like Jacob should have probably at least have known this is the culture and that he's somewhat breaking rules. Now, if you look at it, he had to work for 7 years. Maybe he assumed in that 7 years' time, Leah would find someone.
Sorry.
Oh, maybe.
And that's a long time. I mean, if you know that Leah's like the firstborn, hey, I'll give you 7 years, knowing that it's kind of against the culture to have the younger go first. Maybe he set that amount of time, thinking that that's plenty of time for Leah in her prime, so to speak, prime marriage age.
Yeah. Yep. Well, then even if you go by what they say the young ages were, that they were say 14. There's speculation that Leah and Rachel were twins, but Leah was the firstborn twin. And that, but if they were 14, they'd still be 21 years old. So like you're saying, prime childbearing age, prime child rearing age for women. And that, but I think they were older than that. I think they were a bit older than that when he got there. So, anyways,
I wonder if maybe that was Laban's intent too, is hoping that Leah would find someone in that time. Didn't happen, and so he just conjured up this idea.
that's a possibility. Maybe someone was courting her at that time.
Yeah.
Maybe Laban just wanted his seed for both of his daughters.
Could be.
This is true. Well, I thought about that too, James, because figure it says the Lord was blessing Jacob when he started working, right? So Laban's flocks start increasing. He's like, whoa, if I can get this guy to stick around here somehow, I'll have the biggest flocks in all the land.
Yeah, that's kind of what it sounds like.
And we kind of have a glimpse into his character too when Abraham's servant went to pick up Rebekah. When Laban saw the gold and silver rings and stuff that Abraham had sent, he was like, ooh, check this out, gold and silver.
Yeah.
So I think maybe, oops, yeah, the deceiver getting deceived. They fall into their own traps.
Mm-hmm.
But think about that. How much, traditionally, okay, here's the dark room with no lamps or candles that you go into to consummate your marriage. And then you come out in the daytime and it's a different woman. Maybe is that where the tradition of lifting the veil before you get off of the marriage altar or wherever you're getting married?
I should not be participating in those activities without looking into the eyes and being able to see the face of who I'm participating with.
Do it in the light? Well,
It's been my experience from childhood that when that occurs in dark and when it occurs in light, it's really that much different before the eyes of God even.
right? And this is interesting, Katerina posted. But I just read an article on how Leah and Rachel represent devotional love versus lust and passionate love. I can kind of see that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just odd because Jacob never really wanted Leah, and and I can understand kind of the how that can represent, but he was tricked, and it was like that was never his intention from the beginning, and now I guess he honored it, but I think he honored it because he still wanted Rachel.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
Okay, now in verse 27, when he says, actually, let's go back to verse 25 first, because I wanted to look that up. Because it says, did I not serve with you for Rachel? Wherefore then have you beguiled me? I want to see what that word beguiled is. It's Hebrews 7:411. Ramah, a primitive root to hurl, shoot, delude, or betray. And it occurs 12 times in Scripture. See, I was wondering if that was similar to the deception in the Garden of Eden, but it is not that word. Okay. Anyways, let's go back. Where were we? Hey, Genesis 29. There we go. All right.
I did find it interesting that so he had to wait 7 years for Rachel. He was tricked, got Leah. Then basically had to work another 7 years, but he was still given Rachel a week later.
Yep. So now we're 14 years in. Right? I mean,
Yeah, but he got Rachel ahead of time.
yes. That's the way I read it. Now, that's what I was going to ask in, what was it, 26? 27. Fulfill her week, meaning Leah, and we will give you this also for the service which thou shalt serve with me 7 other years. So basically, it sounds to me it would be like what we call a honeymoon. You know, do your husbandly diligence with Leah for the traditional week. Then you can have Rachel. But you have to serve me 7 more years.
I think they did a whole other wedding ceremony.
Yeah. Maybe. I don't know.
Doesn't say anything.
And that. Now, do you think he hated Leah? Hated like we think of hate now? Because it says hated.
Well,
It says that the Lord saw Leah was hated.
Yes.
So she was hated by the people, or
what is the original word for that? Because I'm curious. Is it
Hate. It comes out to hate.
okay? does.
So, yeah, it works out as hate.
It just seems odd that if she was hated, she had
Well, I'm
6
wondering
sons.
if it's because it's Hebrew 8130 soneh, meaning hate. So it makes me wonder if it is, because she was uh, because she was involved in the tricking of Jacob. She had a part in it as well.
Well, it says that he opened her womb,
Yes.
but Rachel was barren. So the Lord found compassion on her because she was hated.
Yep. And that leads me to believe we're talking about Jacob
Mm.
being the hater. The
It's
hater.
just interesting. If he hates her, he sure has a lot of kids with her.
Well, I wonder if it's not. I wonder if it is. You know, like think back through your past. There are people that were involved in situations that weren't favorable to you, and you kind of have a distaste for them. You know what I mean? It's like,
And that's what I was trying to understand what the word hate was. Like, is it just I'm frustrated, I'm irritated, but she's my wife, or is it I really don't like you because of how this played out?
mm-hmm.
I don't know. But at the same time, if Rachel was barren, at least during those times, and he wanted a son, maybe that was his only other option, and so that's why he continued to have so many children.
Well, is it the same word that's used for hate when the Lord is referred? Because the Lord has certain things that He hates.
Right.
Is it that kind of hate?
That is. Let me look here. Oh. Yes. That same word is used for when Father Yah hates things.
So it's not that. Well, I, hate is a strong word, but we've learned somehow that it's not beneficial. But it is beneficial to hate certain behavior and specifically sin, blatant sin, or outright deceit. And Jacob felt like he got deceived, and Leah participated in it.
Right. Yep, that's how I see it.
Hmm.
She partook in deceiving him.
Hmm.
Now, I'm not saying perhaps she was
It can be.
honoring her dad by being obedient, right? Just as Jacob was obedient to Rebecca and went along with the whole goat skins on the arms thing. Excuse me. Okay, so he opens, our father opens Leah's womb and leaves Rachel barren. So Leah starts, giving children. So we got Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah, all from Leah. And it's interesting because the older two, we've later learned, lose their birthright, their place in line. Levi becomes the tribe of the priests, and Judah becomes the king line. And we have the priest king in Jesus Christ, Yeshua Messiah. later, like it mentions in Hebrews.
But then Rachel has Joseph.
Yep. So let's go there. Let's go up to 30, verse 30, or I'm sorry, chapter 30.
I could see how God was purposeful in making Leah's womb fertile and Rachel's barren at first, so that despite how Jacob was feeling, he could find love for Leah through his own children.
Right? Now, two, though, as we'll see later, so I just kind of want to put this out there, we see that part of the reason Joseph's brothers don't like him is because he's favored, and it mentions that because the older brothers were the sons of Jacob's youth, but Joseph is a son of Jacob's old age. So, you know, when I look at that with large families, you see that the children that are there when the dad is younger, when the father is younger, the dad is more harsh on them, right? More strict, more, just do it, as opposed to, here, let me show you how to do this, guiding them. More of a taskmaster when you're a young father versus being an older father and, leading by example, so to speak. And his older brothers despise that. That's part of the reason they did what they did to Joseph. So, anyways, there's that also. So, I mean, by the time Joseph's born, he's got 10 brothers and sisters. Yeah, 10 brothers, 11 brothers and sisters, 10 brothers, though.
And when you get into the testament of the 12 patriarchs, Jacob's 12 sons, and they write letters, you'll find that they write letters to their sons. And when they're writing them, they're over 100 years old. You'll find in those letters how they feel about their brother. And then as they got older, they repented of those actions, or that you'll see when you read that, But the letters are, this is how I behaved, this is how I should have behaved. And that comes with age, with wisdom. And most men aren't even, in this age that we live in, most of us don't live long enough to gain that wisdom.
Isn't it interesting, though, that Leah's kids also were jealous of Rachel's kids?
Yes. Well, it's because it's natural for the flesh to become covetousness or jealous of something that is highly favored or considered more favorable than.
Do you think that
becomes this?
Do you think that maybe they were reading their mom's actions and emotions in that?
Absolutely.
I think it could be that, but I also think it could go back to Jacob. Like, think about it. Like, he had to work for 14 years ultimately for Rachel. And as it relates to the children, he had to wait through 10 children before he had Joseph. So it's that sometimes the thing you have to wait for the most, you have to work the hardest for, tends to be something you kind of favor more. And again, particularly with, like, Rachel was obviously his favorite. This is the first son from Rachel. I think there's some of it to that. I think there could be some of it where they're getting kind of the cues from their mom. It could be some of what you mentioned, Jonathan, that maybe he was a little harder on the first ones because he was younger and he's kind of working his way through parenthood, and by the time he gets to the last one, he's just kind of, hey, this is my son. I've learned all the things not to do. Now I'm going to be a little. I think it could be a combination of all those things, but obviously, I think there's something about Rachel being his favorite. He had to wait really long for her, and he had to wait a really long time for this particular son.
Oh yeah, there's things you do as a parent with the first child, how you handle situations of disobedience or acting out that you're like, oh man, I totally handled that the wrong way.
Yeah, this you see this throughout Genesis in particular when you have multiple children from the same father but different mothers.
Yes.
There's just this. They don't even feel like a family. Like they feel like they're little like two separate groups that are kind of like pitted against each other most of the time.
That's a good observation, but yes. Even today.
Now in verse 2 of 30, notice Jacob gets angry with Rachel. Right? He's like, why are you blaming me for you not getting pregnant? You know, I'm not God. And so then we have basically a repeat of what happened with, right, Sarah and Abraham. You know, oh, well, take my maidservant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
But it's odd.
Some people do it in reverse, truth junkie. That's for certain.
You know, just knowing this, how this plays out, it is weird that Joseph specifically seems to be the outcast amongst all the brothers. So I mean, it's not that just Leah was the mother for all of them. It was Leah. It was Bilhah. It was the other one? Zilpah. Like, but still, those all still kind of like came together as a unit against Joseph for the most part. So I do think his favor of Rachel had a lot to do with it.
Yeah, I think so. I would agree. So then this too, it's hard to keep track sometimes of all these different names, but it's really popping out to me right now that Bilhah is Rachel's handmaid. And who is it that later goes into Bilhah? One of the sons? Had to be
Reuben.
one of Leah's sons, right?
Yeah, it's Reuben.
Reuben, yeah. So,
Yeah, if you read the Testament of Reuben too, it gives more detail on that. It's pretty sad.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Okay, so now we have Dan is born to Bilhah. And then she also bears Naphtali. So then Leah doesn't like that, and she's like, well, you know what? I have a handmaid too. I got a maid assistant too.
I just have to laugh at this because if this happened in today's world, Jacob would be put away and they'd throw away the key. But I'll digress.
Maybe. I don't know. There's an awful lot of multiple partner baby daddies out there in certain subcultures.
When I say locked up and throw away the key, I mean by those who say they believe and walk by faith.
Yeah.
Most of us. I mean,
that's true.
I didn't understand what walking by faith was until I was in my late 40s. But I believed. And I knew what I knew, right?
Yeah.
But I was an ignorant fool. Until you make a choice to walk by faith, we're not taught. But anyway, I'm going to I want to get off on a bunny trail.
Oh. Okay. So then Zilpah is next. Let's see. Zilpah, she gives birth to Gad and Asher. And then, so then we got the story of Reuben going and gathering mandrakes. And Rachel and Leah barter for these mandrakes. And this is kind of interesting too, because apparently there was some sort of schedule here, some sort of copulation schedule, because Leah goes out and meets Jacob in the field. The way I'm seeing it is she intercepts him before he goes to Rachel's tent and says, "Hey, you're coming with me tonight because I bartered some mandrakes for you."
I think the mandrake thing might have came from Laban, or just their culture,
From Laban?
because
Oh, right, okay.
yeah, because like how Rebecca stole all those god images or whatever later. I think it kind of shows that he was into some weird stuff.
Right. So, mandrake, just read the definition. Mediterranean plant of the nightshade family. So, tomatoes, peppers, potatoes, with white or purple flowers and large yellow berries. It has a forked, fleshy root that supposedly resembles the human form and was formerly widely used in medicine and magic, allegedly shrieking when pulled from the ground. So,
Shrieking?
shrieking, allegedly. So, but isn't medicine and magic kind of medicine and magic is kind of oxymoronic, right? Saying the same thing twice,
Mm-hmm.
at least scripturally. That's from the dictionary. That's not from the Bible. Let's look at what mandrake is in the Strong's real quick. Hebrew 1736. Oh, it is boiler, basket, also the mandrake, as an aphrodisiac. So, there we go.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting.
Yep.
Who's taking the mandrake? Her or Jacob?
I think it's for the woman. Well, I don't know. I guess it could be for the man. I don't know how it
Or
works.
both?
That, but she gets pregnant, Leah, and bears Issachar. So then, what do we have here? Next is Zebulun. And then she bears a daughter. That's when Dinah comes into play. So then after that, we have God remembered Rachel and opened her womb. And this is when Joseph is born. Now, do you think that also could have been a punishment to Abba closing Rachel's womb? Do you think there was maybe some sibling rivalry there? Ha ha, he wanted to marry me, you fat old cow. You know, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how sisters are with each other. You know why? Because I got this. I'm much better looking. Pig nose, pig nose. No, I don't know. That siblings can be mean, though. I know I have some.
Yeah. Especially sisters.
Right.
Yep. Admittedly so. That's not just an observation. That's confessions from women themselves.
Right. So that is pretty interesting.
Hmm.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, so after Joseph is born, this is when Jacob says he wants his payment. And we
So do
kind
you-
of discussed this at the beginning. And he says, I'll take all the speckled and spotted and ring straight cattle among your flocks. And
So before we get into all that he took,
uh-huh.
do you think the entirety of all these children are born in that 7-year span? It can. Like I was kind of thinking about it. Like it can work. Rachel has 6 of them. I mean, if you think about the handmaids, could have children while not Rachel. I mean, Leah has 6 of them. The handmaids could have children while Leah's pregnant. Rachel has Joseph at the very end, and he says, "Hey, my 7 years are up. Peace out."
I think more than likely there was some enthusiasm at the beginning of the marriages. Right? Some gusto. Let's go get them, you know. And so I think that the first sons were born in fairly rapid succession. And I think Joseph was probably around year 7, or maybe towards the end of year 7. Or 14. I'm sorry, year 14, right? Because their age difference is so much.
Well, he didn't have children for the first 7 years because he didn't get Leah until after that 7 years. So it was really a 7-year
I guess it
time.
would be a 7-year time.
Yeah.
Anyways, I think Joseph was probably born at the extreme end of that, because
Yeah.
I'm 8 years younger than my closest sibling, and you're basically an only child.
Yeah.
At that point, unless more children come along. So, and that's what I think, and it also allows them to see via observation. Man, I remember when I was 3, Dad was, literally kicking me in the butt with his sandal and telling me go feed the sheep. And this guy's given a sling to go play with. I don't know. Whatever. How come he gets an Egyptian helicopter blade toy and I don't? I never had anything like that. I had to play with rocks.
Yeah. Sorry. Just curious of the timeline of that because it doesn't get into detail.
I'm speculating.
Yeah. We can get into the stuff he gets.
Yeah. Okay, so now we're back to the different colored sheep and goats and other cattle. What do you think of that? What's that word pilled? It says he peeled white streaks in them.
Yeah. I want to learn how to do this. See if it'll work.
Oh, so pilled is an old word for peel. So he basically stripped them of their bark. So it was the inner. The inner branches, or the inner side of the branch.
It says that there's gutters in the watering troughs. That's kind of cool because you still see that today.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. If any of you guys watch the permaculture stuff with Jeff Lawton. Yeah, Jeff Lawton. That when he's over there, huh? What?
It's like Geoff Lawton.
Yeah. That when he's over there in Jordan or other parts in the Middle East, he's like, these these irrigation troughs have been here since, the first century before Christ, and they're the same troughs they've been using for that long. It's pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, so yes, they had troughs back then. And gutters. So that, yeah, very interesting. And I've spoken my theory on how this happens. Not how he figured it out, but how it happens. But I'm wondering if anybody else has different ideas on that. Okay, my theory is that every creature, man, horses, goats, sheep, lions, leopards, whatever, have recessive gene traits that may or may not come out depending on what the influences are with the mother while the child is in the womb. Right? So a good example is in the wild is like a jaguar. It's a spotted cat, but the ones born in the deep rainforest jungles of Central and South America come out black. But when you get them into the sunlight, you can see spots. It's just real hard to see. But they're born to be adapted at that environment where it's all dark and shadowy and stuff.
Well, think about even plants. If you start a plant from seed in a different environment, it comes up differently.
Yeah. Well, we had an inside aloe vera, the good medicinal kind, and it was a lighter green the whole time we had it in a pot for years. I finally put it outside in soil, and it turned that darker green because it's getting the better nutrients and everything, more sunlight and stuff.
Yeah, outside my house we have live oaks, which if you ever see a live oak at the beach, they're like all shaped and the way they kind of grow up because of the wind and how like the type of soil. But here at my house, like they all kind of grow in interweaved, and you wouldn't even know it's a live oak if I just didn't happen to know because we had someone come trim them up because they just got ridiculous. And so like, yeah, the where it's located plays a major factor.
Yeah. I have these Palo Verdes out here. They're like green bark trees. I've tried over and over and over to get those things to grow out here because they grow all over Tucson, Phoenix, and the towns. And they die every time. And then they shoot out another plant. Like they'll die down to the ground. And the plant that comes back looks nothing. It's like it's still green, but its leaves are different. Its thorns are different. It's really strange. It's the one plant I've really noticed it with. When it dies back, it shoots out like a totally different looking tree. But it's much thinner and it's got less leaves, so it's like adapting to the high wind, intense sun.
Yep. Yeah, it's fascinating, and they being the people I don't want to be a part of, experiment with trying to change the creatures of our Father's creation by altering things on a very tiny subcellular level, and they're messing stuff up, or creating monsters basically. They don't know what they're doing. It's like giving a 10-year-old little vial of nitroglycerin liquid and saying, "Okay, here, go play with that." Yep.
Everybody wants to be dogmen.
No, thank you. Everyone wants to be Anubis.
Mm-hmm.
I want a pit bull's head. I want to look like a Doberman Pinscher. Nope.
But-
But I think at least with what they've messed with the food, well, never mind. Go ahead.
I'm thankful for the scripture. I'm not sure where it's at in the New Testament. It says, "Do not worry what you buy when you go to the market," and specifically when it comes to the meat, because what they're doing with meat today, they were doing back then.
Definitely some of it for certain. And that,
When you have mass sacrifice, you have to have a way to
cover it.
hide the evidence.
Yeah.
And what better way than to serve it back to your people?
And what better way than to make it into hamburger?
Correct.
Yep, they've definitely. It's interesting too because there's a specific reason it says in his law for his dietary laws, don't eat the fat.
Mm-hmm.
You don't eat the fat, and you also don't cook it to such a point that it falls off the bone. So that basically what the world considers the best way to cook meat these days. After you've aged it for a month and a half, that's the other thing too with scripture. When they slaughter an animal, they eat it, not, hey, let's hang it up in a cave for a month and a half, and then we'll roll it in salt and spices and eat it up.
I don't get why people. I know they age certain meats because like pig and shark and stuff like that, because it actually like gets the disease out of it or whatever, the bugs. But I don't get that with clean meats. Why people do that?
Because they can. A lot of it may just be tradition too. Well, it's the way I learned it.
I think it's the preserve, maybe the preserve factor. Like, oh, I can preserve this forever. The salt.
Yep.
Yep. Good old fashioned southern cured salted ham.
I watched this documentary once that was talking about how they do it with shark meat, because if they don't, it's so poisonous it'll like instantly kill you if you eat it. But if you preserve it for like, I don't remember, years, then it's then it's great, really good for you.
Well, it's interesting that they you're talking about shark. They're basically the same thing as pigs or vultures, but for the ocean. Get rid of all the dead stuff. They say no, sharks are mighty hunters, but for the most part, they'll find dead stuff and chow down on that. They're opportunistic. They're like coyotes.
They don't have scales.
Right? Is Matthew 6:25 what you were talking about, James? Therefore I tell you do not be anxious about your life, what you will eat or what you will drink, or nor about your body, what you will put on.
There's one that speaks about going into the market.
I think that's Paul. Yeah. If you don't have a problem with it, then eat it, basically.
Right, and it's especially when it comes to loving one another within the body. When you're in fellowship,
Right.
and you're gathering, and everybody brings a meal, or you go over to someone's house and they prepare you a meal. Accept it with gladness, knowing that even if it's got the venom of snake in it, it won't harm you, according to God's word revealed in the scriptures.
I was thinking about that too recently when he sent the disciples out 2 by 2. He told them, when you go into their house, eat what they give you.
Yes.
So that made me
With gladness.
Yeah. So okay, so back to the.
I think they were having shrimp broils.
The what? Shrimp rolls?
I think they were having shrimp broils.
No. Yeah. So notice this too, and then we'll wrap it up. But it's interesting the way he's breeding both his sheep and Laban's sheep, or all the cattle. That Laban's are coming out spindly and weak, and Jacob's are coming out strong and well built. So that I just find that interesting. And then it closes out with, and the man increased exceedingly and had much cattle and maidservants and men servants and camels and asses. Which I think that goes back to what I was talking about a little while ago, that the servants, the men servants and maid servants that had children in Abraham's house, those became Abraham's servants. And I think we're seeing the same thing here with Jacob, right? Oh. Whoa. Okay, that's interesting. So, all right. Anybody else got anything for Genesis 30?
The stuff that he laid in the water troughs,
Uh-huh.
is that something that comes from culture or something that God?
I don't know, because I think it's something strange to them, to the people of that area. I think it was something he observed and decided to implement. Maybe it was something he learned from Isaac or Abraham.
I'll have to look more into that.
Yeah, that'll be good. Okay, anybody got anything else in general?
General. That's a broad word.
Anything else? Anything else scripturally or prayers wanted? So everybody can pray throughout the week. Oh, here you go. Oops.
There is, I think this prayer we can ask for all of us, because right now more than ever, we are becoming aware of the demonic ritual magic that is being performed against us.
And against everybody.
Yes, against everyone, not just us, but humanity, but us specifically as followers of the Messiah, Yeshua.
This is true, but at the same time, we know we're covered and protected.
Oh, absolutely.
If we stay in Him.
Mm-hmm. But we are living in a time where he's possibly being allowed. So we have discernment. Lord, give us discernment for the time we're in, because we don't want to presume or assume. We must be aware.
Whoa. That was interesting. All right. So, everybody.
Did we get reset?
I don't know what happened. Thanks for coming. And thanks for joining in. And if you're late, you can rewatch. Thanks for reading, James and Matt and Colby. And, yep, exactly. There's no enchantment against Jacob. And
That's right.
as Paul says, at once as Gentiles you were far off, but now as the Israel of God.
Yes.
Now that you are in that. Jacob equals Israel, So that, okay, Truth Junkie, we'll keep you in our prayers. And for everybody else, too, that there's lots of. I need to quit reading the comments. There's a lot going on, like James said, but most of a magician's show is distraction. So just
Yes.
remember that. Avoid the distractions. Stay in the Word. Stay in
Mhm.
prayer. Right? Pray constantly.
Yep.
And avoid the stuff. I'm not saying don't look at what's going on, because some of it may give hints as to what is coming along in our Father's timeline, but don't focus on it. Don't live it. Don't breathe it. Right? Get into the Word. Read the Word. Don't take our word for what the Word says. Look at it
Mm.
yourself. Pray
That's
and
right.
read. Read and pray. So, everybody, thanks a lot. Love you all. Like, share, subscribe. Ring the bell thingy. Yeah. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Yeshua blessings.